Welcome to the WCMA's Inside the Ring and round 5 of our in-depth profile of Hanshi Dan Kulp. In this round, we ask the question, has Hanshi Kulp ever had to use his training in a real-life situation? And if so, what was the outcome? Let's jump into the ring and find out.
It's time for Inside the Ring with host Mike Petrarca.
Now, DC, I know you've played a bunch of places, right, with the Beaver Brown Band and other bands.
Sure.
And so you're very familiar, I'm assuming, with the nightclub scene.
Oh, yes.
Right. I'm sure you've seen things get a little wild in the nightclub scene, people kind of acting up a little bit. Have you ever had to use any of your martial arts training in the club setting, either to de-escalate or actually kind of check somebody, for lack of a better word?
Well, matter of fact, I have. Try to avoid it at all costs,
of course.
you know. And it's interesting, when a fight does break out, if it's not someone that I know or the bouncers are handling, and I always kind of peek and see what happens, because I learn from it, you know, how people confront. I've been able to kind of predict a couple of bouts even before they happen, because I could see the energy, and that's another thing that, again, the spiritual part, I think, of martial arts does. It makes you more aware of that. You get kind of a little spider sense, so to speak, that something might go on here, which is a good indicator to split. But since I'm in the band, I can't. So there was one incident where this guy was drinking, obviously, and there was someone on the dance floor, and the guy, believe it or not, had one leg. So he had a prosthetic leg. So he had two legs, but one was artificial.
Sure.
And you could tell by the way he was moving around. And he bumped into the guy, and the guy started fighting with him, and threw the guy who had
The prosthetic leg.
on the ground, and he was on top of him and ready to start pounding him, and I just couldn't take it, and nobody did anything. So I ran over and I grabbed the guy and picked him right up and pushed him away, and I helped the guy up off the ground, but the guy that I pushed away said he was going to kick my you-know-what. I said, well, here I am. So he came at me, and I was able to, it was really kind of interesting. He threw a punch, and I parried him to the side and ended up behind him. Now, I could have choked him, but I just kind of held his shoulders, actually more down by his triceps, which is a good place to grab somebody because you can control the arm better. But he was swearing at me and very aggressive. And he was trying to elbow me. But it was interesting because I could feel his intention before he even did it.
Interesting.
Yeah, and so he did 3 or 4 elbows, and I pushed him away, and he fell forward. He turned around again, and he took a deep breath. I said, you want to keep going? And he walked away.
He walked away?
He walked away. And then another interesting time, I was playing with Gary Gramellini, this is crazy, at the Ocean Mist.
Yeah.
And we were on break, and this guy busts into our dressing room, and he was massive.
Yeah.
Turned out he was a URI football player who was on steroids. And when I say this guy, the veins in his neck were as big as your fingers.
Holy cow.
He walked up to everybody and screamed, hit me, hit me. He was spitting all over people. And he was angry because it was a girl he was trying to court. And she was talking to the band just innocently. And he thought we were... His brother told him, there was 2 of them, his brother said that we were trying to take his girl. So this guy was massive. So he comes to me, and the dressing room was very small, and he starts screaming at me. And I saw in my mind I was going to elbow him and go to work, but I also knew that, man, I better knock this guy out because this is going to be a tussle.
Right.
So what I did was I followed a lesson from Gichin Funakoshi. He said, to subdue the enemy without fighting is the highest skill. And he also said, learn to take the fight out of your opponent. So this is a true story, man.
Yeah.
There was a cooler of water and beer on the floor. So he's yelling at me, hit me, hit me. I said, would you like a cold drink? I didn't take my eyes off him, mind you. But I pointed to the cooler. He goes, what did you say? And I said, how about a cool drink? It's hot. He looked at me, looked at the cooler, went back and forth. He goes, you're all right, man. You're a good dude. And then he turns to his brother and punches his brother right in the head. His brother hits his head on the metal door frame and said, you almost got me into a fight. They jumped out of the door and walked down Beach Road, and we're all just like, what the heck just happened? And everybody said, how did you do that? I'm like, I don't know, but it was better than the other alternative, which would have been going to town with this guy.
Well, I mean, you just said, I mean, to just, go to a psychological technique there.
Yeah, yeah.
Sometimes that's one of the best psychological grounding techniques is to do something completely opposite and radical than the person believes.
That's right.
Because you disarm them. They're not expecting it, and they think like,
yeah.
What? Really?
That's right.
So you
it looked amazing,
Yeah, that's amazing.
And he was on a roid rage, and man, when I tell you, Mike, this guy, his neck was like that. It was scary, and he's like breathing fire like this close to my face. And he went up to every band member, and everybody, of course, and rightly so, backed down because they didn't want to mess with this cat, and I didn't even really want to either.
Yeah.
But I wasn't afraid. I was ready to go if I had to, but it just kind of popped like that. Like, you want a cold drink? And it diffused the situation.
I feel like after hearing that, somebody after this for a beer provider might reach out to you and have you do a commercial to de-escalate with that.
It calms people down, right?
That might not be the best thing,
yeah,
but
no.
I need to be a healthy
Water,
commercial.
maybe I'll endorse.
Yeah,
So there you go. So there's been other things, but those are the two that kind of pop out at me.
That's awesome.
To subdue your enemy without fighting is the highest skill. A great philosophy we all need to consider when faced with aggression, as Hanshi Don Culp was. So often people look at martial arts as violence or outright fighting. That is the farthest thing from what it actually is. If you're being taught and trained by a responsible instructor or coach, they will put the teaching of a peaceful philosophy first and to avoid confrontation when at all possible. If you would like to learn more about Hanshi Don Culp, or if you're interested in training at his dojo, his doors are always open at 220 Old Baptist Road in North Kingston, Rhode Island. Or you can visit him on the web at donculp.net or call 401-885-9774.